Everything you've been told about attracting commitment is backwards when it comes to avoidance. Chase them and they run. Show too much interest and they lose theirs. Try to lock them down and they slip through your fingers like water. The conventional dating wisdom that works on secure attachment styles becomes relationship poison when applied to someone whose entire nervous system is wired to flee from traditional romantic pursuit. But here's what most people don't understand. Avoidants aren't actually commitment phobic. They're predictability phobic. They're not afraid of love itself. They're terrified of the suffocating, demanding, emotionally chaotic version of love they've experienced before. When you trigger the right psychological responses, they don't just tolerate commitment. They actively pursue it because you've created something they've never experienced. A relationship that feels safe, exciting, and impossible to control. The secret lies in understanding their psychological wiring at the deepest level. Avoidants are attracted to what they can't have, turned on by what they can't control, and magnetized by people who don't need them, but choose them anyway. They want someone who's emotionally self-sufficient enough that loving them feels like a luxury rather than a necessity, mysterious enough that they never feel bored, and confident enough to remain centered even when their attachment system is throwing tantrums. These aren't manipulation tactics or games. They're authentic ways of being that naturally trigger an avoidance pursuit response while creating the kind of relationship dynamic where both people can actually thrive. The goal isn't to trick them into commitment, but to become the kind of person they genuinely want to commit to because you represent everything they didn't know they were looking for. The 6 psychological turn-ons that follow will completely flip the script on how you approach avoidant partners. Instead of chasing, you'll be chosen. Instead of convincing them of your worth, they'll be proving theirs to you. Instead of walking on eggshells around their fears, you'll create a dynamic where their commitment feels like the natural, inevitable outcome of being with someone who truly understands how their psychology works. Turn-on 1. Emotional independence that doesn't need them. The most intoxicating quality you can possess in an avoidant's eyes is complete emotional self-sufficiency. Not the performative kind where you pretend to be fine while secretly hoping they'll rescue you, but genuine wholeness that exists whether they're in your life or not. Avoidants are magnetically drawn to people who have their own emotional ecosystem, who can regulate their feelings without external validation, and who approach relationships as an enhancement to an already fulfilling life rather than a solution to internal emptiness. This emotional independence shows up in how you handle their mixed signals without becoming anxious or reactive. When they pull back, you don't chase or demand explanations. You simply continue living your rich, full life while giving them space to figure out their feelings. When they're inconsistent with communication, you don't spiral into insecurity or start analyzing every text message for hidden meaning. You respond when it's convenient for you and maintain your own rhythm regardless of their emotional weather patterns. Your emotional autonomy is particularly attractive because it eliminates the pressure they feel to manage another person's emotional state. Most people they date become emotional projects that require constant reassurance, explanation, and management of reactions. But when you're genuinely secure in yourself, they don't have to worry about your feelings exploding if they need time alone, don't have to craft careful responses to avoid triggering your insecurities, and don't have to take responsibility for your happiness. The key is developing real emotional independence, not performing it strategically. This means doing your own therapeutic work, building a support system that doesn't depend on them, creating meaning in your life through your own goals and interests, and genuinely enjoying your own company. When your emotional well-being doesn't fluctuate based on their attention or behavior, you become irresistibly attractive because you represent the kind of low-maintenance, high-quality connection they've always wanted but never thought was possible. Your independence also triggers their competitive instincts in the healthiest way. Avoidants are often attracted to challenges and turned off by things that come too easily. When you have your own full life that they have to fit into rather than rearrange themselves around, they start viewing access to you as something valuable that must be earned rather than something guaranteed they can take for granted. This doesn't mean being cold or unavailable. It means being warm and present when you're together while maintaining your own identity, interests, and emotional center when you're apart. You're genuinely happy to see them and equally content when they leave. You enjoy their company without depending on it for your sense of self-worth or daily happiness. Your emotional independence becomes even more attractive when combined with clear communication about your needs without emotional manipulation. You can say, "I'd love to see you this weekend," without it becoming a test of their feelings or a source of conflict if they can't make it. You can express disappointment about their behavior without making it their job to fix your emotions. This combination of clarity and autonomy feels like emotional luxury to someone used to navigating complicated emotional minefields. The most powerful aspect of this turn-on is how it naturally filters for genuine interest versus convenience. When you're emotionally complete without them, only someone who genuinely wants to be with you will make the effort to pursue you. This eliminates the casual, half-hearted attention that avoidants often give when they sense desperation or emotional dependence. Turn on 2. Boundaries that actually have consequences. Avoidants are secretly attracted to people who have boundaries with real teeth, not empty threats or manipulative ultimatums, but clear standards that are consistently enforced through action rather than argument. Most people they encounter have flexible boundaries that bend under pressure, creating relationships that feel chaotic and unpredictable. But when you demonstrate unwavering standards for how you'll be treated, you create the structure that makes their anxious attachment system finally feel safe enough to relax. The difference between effective boundaries and ineffective ones lies in follow-through. Ineffective boundaries sound like, "If you keep canceling plans last minute, I'm going to stop making them with you," followed by continuing to make plans anyway when they sweet-talk you. Effective boundaries look like quietly stopping the behavior that isn't working for you without discussion, drama, or attempts to change them. You simply adjust your own actions to protect your well-being. When an avoidant consistently shows up late to dates, instead of lecturing them about respect or threatening to leave, you calmly implement a boundary. You wait exactly 15 minutes, then leave and make other plans without anger or explanation. When they ask what happened, you simply say, "I don't wait longer than 15 minutes for anyone," and suggest rescheduling. This kind of calm, consistent boundary enforcement is incredibly attractive because it's predictable in a way that feels safe rather than controlling. Your boundaries around communication work similarly. Instead of demanding daily contact or getting upset when they don't text back quickly, you establish your own rhythm and stick to it regardless of their patterns. You respond when it works for you. Make plans that suit your schedule, and don't adjust your life around their communication style. This consistency actually helps them feel more secure because they know what to expect from you. The most powerful boundaries involve protecting your emotional energy without trying to control their behavior. You don't tell them they can't go out with friends or that they need to commit by a certain timeline. Instead, you protect yourself from situations that don't serve you. You don't accept last-minute date requests because you value planning. You don't engage in circular conversations about the relationship because they drain your energy. You don't tolerate hot and cold behavior because it destabilizes your peace. These boundaries become turn-ons because they demonstrate self-respect in action rather than words. Avoidants have usually encountered people who talk about their worth but don't act like they believe it. When your actions consistently reflect your values without needing their approval or cooperation, you become attractive because you're demonstrating the kind of self-possession they wish they had. Your boundary enforcement also eliminates the push-pull dynamic that keeps many avoidant relationships stuck in toxic cycles. When you consistently maintain your standards regardless of their behavior, there's no game to play, no chase to engage in, no emotional roller coaster to ride. This stability allows them to focus on whether they actually want to be with you, rather than getting caught up in the drama of pursuit and retreat. The key is implementing boundaries from a place of self-care rather than punishment. You're not trying to teach them a lesson or change their behavior. You're simply protecting your own well-being while remaining open to connection if they choose to meet your standards. This approach feels safe rather than controlling because you're taking responsibility for your own experience without trying to manage theirs. When boundaries have real consequences that you enforce calmly and consistently, avoidants start to see you as someone who creates order rather than chaos, someone who knows their own worth rather than needing external validation, and someone who can be trusted to maintain their standards under pressure. This reliability becomes incredibly attractive to someone whose nervous system craves predictability, even as their conscious mind resists it. Turn-on 3. Mystery that keeps them guessing. Avoidants are psychologically wired to lose interest in anything they can predict completely, which means maintaining an element of mystery is crucial for keeping their attention engaged long-term. This isn't about playing games or being deliberately confusing. It's about preserving the natural complexity and depth that makes you genuinely interesting while avoiding the trap of becoming an open book they can read in one sitting. The mystery that attracts avoidance comes from having layers to your personality that reveal themselves gradually over time. You share stories about your past selectively, not because you're hiding anything shameful, but because you understand that anticipation creates intrigue. When they ask about your childhood, you might share one meaningful story that gives them insight into who you are while leaving them curious about other experiences that shaped you. Your unpredictability should come from genuine spontaneity rather than calculated behavior. Maybe you're the type of person who decides to take a weekend trip to another city on a whim, who has hidden talents they discover gradually, or who has strong opinions about unexpected topics. The goal is to remain authentically yourself while not laying out your entire personality blueprint in the first few conversations. Professional and personal achievements work as mystery elements when you let them discover your accomplishments naturally rather than listing them like a resume. They might find out you speak 3 languages when you accidentally answer a phone call in Spanish, or learn about your artistic side when they notice a painting in your apartment that you created. These discoveries create positive surprises that keep them engaged and wondering what else they don't know about you. Your social life should remain somewhat mysterious without being secretive. They know you have friends and interests outside of them, but they don't have complete access to every detail of your social calendar. When they ask what you did last weekend, you might mention having dinner with friends without providing a detailed breakdown of everyone who was there and everything you discussed. This creates natural curiosity about your world. The most effective mystery comes from having genuine depth and complexity that can't be fully explored quickly. You have philosophical thoughts about life, passionate interests you could talk about for hours, experiences that have shaped your worldview in ways that take time to understand. Your complexity keeps them intellectually engaged because there's always more to discover about how your mind works. Your emotional responses should remain somewhat unpredictable within healthy boundaries. While you're consistent in your values and standards, your specific reactions to situations might surprise them in positive ways. Maybe you're more adventurous than they expected, more philosophical during deep conversations, or funnier when you're relaxed. These discoveries keep them curious about other sides of your personality. Physical mystery works similarly. You don't reveal everything about your body or your sensuality immediately. There are layers to discover, preferences to learn about, and sides of your sexuality that emerge gradually as comfort and trust develop. This progression maintains anticipation and prevents the relationship from becoming sexually predictable too quickly. The key is balancing openness with restraint. You're not hiding who you are, but you're not downloading your entire personality in the first few dates either. You answer questions honestly while leaving room for natural curiosity. You share meaningful parts of yourself while maintaining healthy privacy about aspects of your life that don't need to be immediately accessible. Your mystery should feel effortless rather than calculated, because it comes from actually being a complex, interesting person with depth worth exploring. When avoidants sense that there are always new layers to discover about you, they remain engaged because their brain's novelty-seeking mechanisms stay activated rather than switching to boredom mode. Turn-on 4. Calm confidence during their chaos. Nothing attracts an avoidant more powerfully than someone who remains completely centered and unshakable when their attachment system is having a meltdown. While others react to their push-pull behavior with anxiety, anger, or desperate attempts to reconnect, your calm confidence during their emotional storms becomes a lighthouse that guides them back to stability while demonstrating the kind of strength they desperately want to develop themselves. This calm shows up most powerfully when they're going through their classic distancing phase. Instead of panicking about the relationship or demanding explanations for their sudden coldness, You continue operating from your centered place while giving them space to work through whatever they're processing. You don't take their withdrawal personally because you understand it's about their internal state, not your worth as a partner. Your confidence during their chaos involves responding to their emotional tests without getting hooked into their drama. When they pick fights over nothing, you don't engage with the surface content but address the underlying dynamic. It seems like you're feeling overwhelmed about something. I'm here when you're ready to talk about what's really going on. This approach disarms their defensive mechanisms because you're not taking the bait. The most attractive aspect of your calm confidence is how it creates safety for them to experience their emotions without having to manage yours simultaneously. When they're spiraling about commitment fears or relationship anxiety, they don't have to worry about your emotional state adding to their overwhelm. Your stability becomes the container that allows them to process their feelings without additional chaos. Your confidence shows in how you handle their inconsistent communication without becoming demanding or clingy. When they suddenly stop texting as frequently, you don't flood them with messages asking if everything is okay. You maintain your own communication rhythm and trust that they'll reach out when they're ready. This patience demonstrates strength that they find deeply attractive. During their moments of emotional volatility, your calm presence helps regulate their nervous system in ways they can't achieve alone. You speak in measured tones, maintain steady eye contact, and refuse to match their emotional intensity when they're activated. This co-regulation helps them feel safe enough to come down from their triggered state instead of escalating further. Your confidence includes knowing when to give them space versus when to stay present. You can sense when their distancing is a request for breathing room versus when it's a trauma response that needs gentle, consistent presence. This emotional intelligence helps them trust that you understand their psychological patterns without taking them personally. The most powerful demonstration of your calm confidence happens when you refuse to participate in their self-sabotage attempts. When they try to create conflict to justify their fears about relationships, you don't give them the dramatic reaction they're unconsciously seeking. Instead, you remain steady and loving while refusing to enable their destructive patterns. Your confidence also shows in how you handle their hot and cold behavior without becoming equally inconsistent in response. When they're warm and affectionate, you receive it genuinely without becoming clingy. When they're distant and cold, you remain open and kind without chasing or punishing. This consistency helps them learn that love doesn't have to be chaotic or conditional. This calm confidence becomes irresistible because it represents everything they wish they could be. Emotionally regulated, secure in themselves, capable of staying present during difficult emotions, and strong enough to love someone without losing themselves in the process. You become a model for the kind of emotional maturity they want to develop, making them want to rise to your level rather than pulling you down to theirs. Turn-On 5. A life so full, they have to earn space in it. The most magnetic quality you can possess with an avoidant is a life so rich, fulfilling and packed with meaningful activities that spending time with you feels like a privilege rather than an expectation. When your calendar is filled with friends, hobbies, career goals, travel plans, and personal interests that genuinely excite you, you become the prize they want to win rather than the person desperately hoping for their attention. This fullness shows up in how you handle scheduling and availability. You don't immediately rearrange your plans when they suddenly want to see you. Instead, you check your actual schedule and offer times that genuinely work for you. When they ask to hang out on Friday night and you already have dinner plans with friends, you don't cancel to accommodate them. You suggest Saturday or Sunday instead, demonstrating that your time has value and other commitments matter to you. Your social life should be genuinely robust, not performed for their benefit. You have close friendships that predate them and will continue regardless of your relationship status. You make plans with these friends regularly, maintain traditions and commitments, and enjoy social activities that don't include your romantic partner. This independence makes you more attractive because it proves you're choosing to spend time with them rather than defaulting to them out of boredom or loneliness. Professional and personal goals create natural competition for your time and attention in ways that trigger their pursuit instincts. When you're genuinely excited about a work project, training for a marathon, learning a new skill, or pursuing a creative passion, these interests create healthy boundaries around your availability. They have to work around your pottery class, your book club, your volunteer commitments, your fitness routine. Your hobbies and interests should be authentic passions that you'd pursue whether they existed or not. Maybe you're deeply into photography and spend weekends exploring new locations for shoots. Perhaps you're learning Italian and have evening classes twice a week. You might be part of a hiking group that meets every Sunday morning. These activities create natural scarcity around your time while demonstrating that you're an interesting person with your own motivations. Travel and adventure plans show them that your life moves forward with or without their participation. You book that weekend trip with friends, plan the solo vacation you've been wanting to take, or commit to visiting family during holidays based on your own desires rather than hoping they'll want to join you. This independence makes them realize they need to actively participate in your life rather than assuming you'll always be available. Your career ambitions and professional development create attractive unavailability without being artificially constructed. When you're genuinely focused on advancing your skills, taking on new challenges, or building something meaningful professionally, this natural passion makes you less available for constant relationship processing and more interesting as a whole person. The key is that your full life must be authentic, not performed as a strategy to attract them. You should genuinely enjoy your friends, feel passionate about your interests, and find fulfillment in your activities whether or not they appreciate these qualities. When your joy in your own life is real, it becomes magnetically attractive because avoidants are drawn to people who embody the kind of contentment and self-sufficiency they struggle to create for themselves. Your boundaries around your time and energy become natural consequences of actually having a full life, rather than artificial scarcity tactics. You can't text all day because you're busy with work you care about. You can't see them every night because you have other commitments that matter to you. You can't drop everything when they finally decide they want attention because your life has structure and meaning beyond their availability. This fullness makes them work to earn space in your world, which triggers their appreciation for what they're gaining access to. Instead of feeling like they're doing you a favor by spending time together, they start recognizing that you're choosing them over other appealing options, which makes your attention feel valuable rather than needy. Turn-on number 6, genuine indifference to their commitment timeline. The ultimate psychological turn-on for an avoidant is someone who genuinely doesn't need them to commit by any particular timeline because they're content with their own life, regardless of relationship status. This isn't about pretending you don't want commitment or playing hard to get. It's about reaching a place of authentic emotional security where their decision-making process doesn't create anxiety or urgency in your system. This indifference shows up in how you handle conversations about the future without pressure or expectation. When the topic of commitment arises naturally, you can discuss it without emotional charge, sharing what you'd like in a relationship while remaining genuinely okay with whatever they decide. You're not attached to converting them or convincing them of anything because you trust that the right person for you will want the same things without coercion. Your patience comes from understanding that forced commitment is worthless commitment. You recognize that someone who needs to be convinced, pressured, or ultimatumed into choosing you isn't actually choosing you at all. They're capitulating to avoid conflict or loss. This awareness helps you remain genuinely detached from their timeline because you only want commitment that comes from authentic desire rather than external pressure. The most attractive aspect of your indifference is how it eliminates their performance anxiety around relationship decisions. When they don't feel rushed, judged, or pressured to figure out their feelings by a deadline, they can actually access what they want rather than what they think they should want. This space allows their authentic feelings to emerge without the contamination of obligation or expectation. Your comfort with uncertainty demonstrates emotional maturity that avoidants find incredibly attractive. While others spiral about relationship ambiguity or demand clarity about where things are going, you remain peaceful with not knowing. You can enjoy what you have together in the present moment without needing guarantees about the future, which feels like emotional luxury to someone used to relationship pressure. This indifference includes being genuinely okay with them, saying no to commitment. You're not secretly hoping to change their mind or waiting for them to come around. You're prepared to accept their authentic answer and act accordingly. This authentic detachment from the outcome makes them feel safe to be honest about their feelings, rather than telling you what they think you want to hear. Your timeline indifference shows in how you make your own life decisions without waiting for their commitment status. You pursue job opportunities, make social plans, consider living arrangements, and plan your future based on what makes sense for you as an individual. You're not putting your life on hold waiting for them to decide whether they want to be part of it. The paradox is that your genuine indifference to their timeline often accelerates their decision-making process. When they realize you're not going to wait indefinitely or pressure them into choosing, they're forced to examine their own feelings without external influence. Many avoidants discover they actually do want commitment when the pressure to commit is completely removed. Your emotional security around timeline uncertainty comes from knowing your own worth isn't dependent on their decision. Whether they choose commitment or not doesn't change your value as a person or your capacity for happiness. This self-assurance makes you incredibly attractive because it demonstrates the kind of emotional independence they aspire to develop themselves. The most powerful aspect of timeline indifference is how it creates space for genuine connection to develop naturally. Instead of relationship conversations being loaded with pressure and expectation, they become opportunities for honest sharing about feelings, fears, and desires. This authentic communication often leads to the kind of emotional intimacy that makes commitment feel natural rather than forced. When avoidants encounter someone who truly doesn't need them to commit by any particular timeline, they often discover that commitment stops feeling like a trap and starts feeling like a choice worth making. Your patience becomes their freedom to choose you authentically rather than defensively, which often results in the very commitment you weren't demanding.